Football Playbook with your boy, RIC, and the place to be, broadcasting live from the Jersey Shore around the football universe. I'm so happy to be here on this Football Friday affair, January 20th, 2023. All the chat room people, long time, first time. I see you lighting it up. So happy that you joined us here. We're 30 hours away from the Turnpike Trilogy, and before I introduce my next guest, I just want to say shout out to all the people that tuned in. JAKIB Sports had a record-breaking month in December, over 10 million viewers, outstanding. And I was seeing that Philly, in terms of just the market, is doubling down New York City listening. I mean, New York City's drawing like a 7.7 rating, their top shows. In Philly, it's 15.7, 15.5, WIP, FAN, whatever. What my point is, the Philly market has become suddenly the number 2 sports market in terms of sports talk radio. Boston, surprisingly, is number 1. I found it fascinating, though, the doubling the audience of New York City. And I say that because our next guest is truly the people's champion, a broadcaster of the year, 97.3 ESPN Radio Sports Bash. Mike Gill is here, the people's champion. Let's get the finger on the pulse. Good morning, Mike. How we doing today?
What's the word, Rick? What's going on, man?
I don't know. I want to know what the confidence level is of the one Mike Gill here as we sit 30 hours away from the Turnpike Trilogy. How you feeling?
I feel all right, man. I mean, this was the matchup when we asked last week of the 4 teams, who do you want to face? I said the Giants. I mean, this is the pick. I mean, Giants were 1, Seattle 2, Tampa 3, Dallas was 4. This is the matchup you want, and then all of a sudden, people got like a little cold feet because they won the game. Well, to get the matchup you want, they have to actually win the game to get there. Look, the Giants beat a pretty flimsy Vikings team. Everyone's talking about the Giants being this hot team. They've won 3 games in, like, they were 7-1. They ended up with 9 wins and a tie. This is not a hot team. This is a team that played the Vikings twice in the last month of the season. And look, that Vikings team's got a lot of flaws, a lot of warts. Look, the Vikings, I think the Giants are ahead of schedule. They are moving in the right direction. It's going to be Eagles, Giants for a while now, hopefully, because I think the Giants have finally got their act together. But this is not an NFC championship roster. Everybody can kumbaya on that.
Well, I'll counter that by saying I think it's not necessarily like they're hot in the fashion, whereas they rattled off these wins like the Bengals and the 49ers. I think it's more like specifically Daniel Jones. When you look over the last 5 games, he's completing passes at a higher level than Patrick Mahomes, than Joe Burrow, than Justin Herbert, than anybody. And they've kind of recreated their identity both on offense and defense. So I understand what you're saying about Minnesota. We just had Brian Baldinger on. He thinks this is going to come down to the final 15 minutes. He thinks it's going to be decided in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, I think it's a close game. I mean, they're the third time. They know each other well. I think I had Clay Harbor on my podcast the other day, and he said he played for Brian Daboll in New England. He's played for Andy Reid, Bill Belichick. Dan Campbell was his tight end coach. Daboll was his tight end coach. Sean Payton in New Orleans. He said Daboll was the smartest football guy he's ever been around. And, like, he was actually jealous of guys like Gronk and Aaron Hernandez and, Martellus Bennett, players who got to play as a tight end for Daboll. And he's like, I wish I had this guy teaching me. So this team is going to be prepared. And look, in the NFL, a big question is it talent or execution and preparation? What wins a game on a Sunday? Well, if the 2 teams are equally as prepared and they both execute, the more talented team should win the game. But I think that's what puts the Giants in this position, is that they are so well prepared and they are so good at executing what Daboll wants them to get done. And that's why they're here. They are not the more talented team. We can all agree on that. Now, Are we talking about is Brian Daboll, Wink Martindale, Mike Kafka, and that staff going to have that team more prepared than Nick Sirianni, John Gannon, Shane Steichen, and that staff? That could be an interesting chess match there.
Well, the Eagles have had 20 days to prepare. The Giants, maybe 5 days. But to that point, I know the chat room's tired of hearing me say it, the Dayball effect, but it's a real thing. And I wonder too, like, I've talked about 1 week I'll see a Wildcat, another week I'll see a Wishbone, another week I see 8 offensive linemen. But go back to week 18, he's not afraid of the trickery. Like I remember he did a fake punt. He had an onside kick in that game.
Was that a product of them being undermanned in that game?
But where I was going to say is, was that something we might see, or was that him just doing that so that, hey, let's just throw this on film so Philly has to take time out of their schedule to go and prepare for an onside kick?
It could be, but I think you go back to week 18 and you see a severely undermanned Giants team, and they're saying, look, we're not just going to throw the game. We're undermanned, so let's try to pull out all the strings to try to win this game. Because I think, quite frankly, the Giants didn't want to do what the Chargers did, play guys, potentially get them hurt, but they also didn't want to lay down. I think Daboll has pride in that, hey, I'm not going to be dumb, but if I'm going to be on that field, I'm going to give you my best shot, and my best shot on that day may be pulling out some hocus pocus, some strings, trying to get some things done here. Look, for me, I think a big story in this game, Wink Martindale and the defense. You've been dealing with the Gannon haters all year long. They hate John Gannon. They want him out. Wink Martindale found his inner John Gannon last week.
I know. Yeah.
He did not blitz against the Vikings. He sat in the soft zone. He sent 4, and the Vikings had problems all day. Is Wink Martindale going to show restraint and not blitz, or is he going to say, look, this guy's banged up. We got to go after him? When they have sent pressure against the Eagles this year, in the 2 games, they have blitzed 50% of the snaps. 50. And Jalen Hurts has crushed them when they have blitzed. But Adoree Jackson, Xavier McKinney, they're back. They did not play in that Week 14 game. When they blitzed one-on-one, thank you very much, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, big plays. Are those big plays going to be there? Because I thought Jackson was a big game changer against Justin Jefferson in the fourth quarter of that game.
Right. And then they blitzed just 15% last week. So what does Mike Gill think it's going to be? I would imagine they're going to try to throw the kitchen sink and hit Jalen Hurts and test out that shoulder.
Yeah, I'm really mesmerized on this one. I don't know if Martindale has it in him 2 weeks in a row not to dial up the blitz. I mean, hey, he wants to blitz. That's what he's known for. That's what he wants to do. And if he's going to dial up the blitz, does he trust his corners to hold up on the back end against Smith and Brown? I mean, last week you got Justin Jefferson, but on the other side, Thielen's not the same guy. They don't really have that elite number 2. The tight end beat them up last week. You got Goddard in this offense too. So is pressure counterintuitive? I guess the big question then becomes, what Jalen Hurts are we getting? And nobody knows that answer.
Talking to Mike Gill, 97.3 ESPN Radio, the Sports Bash. Make sure you smash that like button while you're here. I got a theory, Mike, and for some Eagles fans, it might be a nightmare, but I had my friend Emery Hunt on from CBS Sports, who covers the Giants pretty regularly. And he said that the Giants' key to victory, and it kind of surprised me, was to have Daniel Jones sit back there and dink and dunk to Richie James and Isaiah Hodgins and all these no-name receivers. And I wonder, like, what we saw, it was Daniel Jones running the ball 17 times, Saquon Barkley 9 a week ago. But what I have a theory, like, we talk about all this, got you, this coaching preparation. Could the Giants pull a rope-a-dope where the Eagles come out thinking they're going to run Saquon Barkley, and it actually plays into the Giants' hands, and they come out with the offensive attack and a game plan to throw the ball, and they say, I got you. And they let Daniel Jones dink and dunk and, trickle his way down the field. Is that something that you think we could see tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, that's the basis of John Gannon's defense. You're going to have to dink and dunk your way all the way down the field. And the basis is that people hate is if you're going to have a 10, 11, 12 play drive multiple times in a game, you're going to have to be perfect. that first drive of the game against the Saints, for instance, they go down the field, long drive, they score. Well, after that, it's hard to do a 12, 13 play drive again. And the Eagles are more than willing to say, you want a 12, 13 play drive? Go for it. Because in the end, results are this. 12 play drive ends in a field goal. I win, Eagles. 12 play drive results in a sack. I win. 12 play drive results in a fumble. I win. 12 play drive results in an interception. I win. 12 play drive results in a penalty that kills the drive. I win. There's a lot of I wins in long drives. You got to be perfect to go 12 plays and get 6. So that's where Eagle fans get frustrated because it's like all these long drives. That's what the plan is. You got to be perfect. A lot of times in a 60-minute game to score enough points in that way. If you're going to go up and down the field 12, 9, 10, 11 times, you better be executing perfectly. So I think the Eagles would be okay with Daniel Jones kind of dumping it off if they don't result in 6. If they get into the end zone, that's a different story. But if they're going up and down the field and they only end up with 3 at the end of the day, that's been the recipe for the Eagles all season long.
All right, well, let's talk about the recipe on offense because they've kind of been a chameleon where they can change their identity on any given week. And if I recall correctly, the first Giants go around when they were I guess were they in Jersey for the first affair?
First I was in New York. Yeah, Jersey. Yeah.
So I think that was the game, if I remember correctly, that Miles Sanders was mic'd up and he was out there laying the lumber on all those blocks and he ran for all those yards. And I think they had over 250 rushing yards against the Giants. Like, is that the key to success for the Eagles to get back to the run game here this week?
Well, they had 177 with Sanders, 77 more with Hurts. That's the big thing. You talk about the 250, 77 of them came from Hurts. How many of those are going to come from Hurts this time around? I think the Eagles should be able to run the ball, although I don't think William Jackson played in the first game. I think he was out that first game. They're getting him back. That's a big addition to their run defense as well. So you bring him back. You got Jackson back. You got McKinney back. Those are 3 pretty key guys to that defense. But I still think the Eagles, look, their bread and butter is to run the ball, and they should be able to run the ball against anybody if they stick to it. And then what does that do? That gets Wink Martindale saying, all right, we're going to have to try to do some run blitzes here. We're going to have to try to send some pressure. And then that puts Hurts back in the situation of, hey, one-on-one with AJ and Smith, I'll take that shot. So I think if they get out and try to establish the run, here's another thing that I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles do early. Because Hurts hasn't played in a week, and he played very in that last game, and then he didn't play for the 2 weeks before. Do they come out, hurry up tempo, and try to get him in a rhythm early and get the Giants in the defense that they want to get them in and kind of keep them there, so that the Giants can't make personnel changes. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles come out with a little tempo, running the ball, laying some wood on that defensive line, and trying to do something that way, and then get the Giants out of their game plan early of what they want to do.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get 77 rushing out of Jalen, but I do think we'll see that committee approach back in full effect. And you mentioned Wink. I saw he was asked about Boston Scott, and he said, no, I don't think he's a giant killer. But is there really a better, like from a fan standpoint, you've got a New York giant killer by the first name of Boston. He's 5'5". And he's got 10 touchdowns in 8 games. I don't know. That sounds like a giant killer to me, Mike.
I was on a Giant show yesterday, and that's the first thing. Is this thing with Boston Scott for real? He has 10 career touchdowns against the Giants. He's 6-2 as a player, 414 yards, 9 touchdowns, 1 in the air, 17 catches for 220 yards. I mean, this is his breakout day every time they play the Giants. I mean, I don't know if the Eagles try to game plan for him. Do they see a reason or something? I think it's circumstance. When they play the Giants, it's generally late in the year. Things are wrapped up. Guys aren't playing because they're playing in the Week 18 game, Week 17 in years past. Guys have been hurt, so he's had to step in. I think it's a lot of coincidental when it comes to Scott, but for whatever reason, he's been the guy, and a lot of people love betting that anytime touchdown, Boston Scott.
Well, I was gonna say the first the odds for first touchdown are pretty good. With
he hit it last week. He hit it 2 weeks ago. He hit the first one.
Yeah, that's a good little play right there. All right, let me ask you about, we're talking to Mike Gill, 97.3. Guys, I'm not scared. I see the chat room. I'm trying to give you the opposite angle, the other end of the spectrum, and you can't count out anybody this time of year. So listen, at the end of the day, I'm not scared because I watched the Eagles hype video this morning, Mike. It's a Philly thing. Are you on board with this?
I haven't seen it yet. I have seen it circulating. I haven't had the time to sit and watch it. They generally, for all the Philly sports teams, do a good job with those things, but I have not gotten to it yet. I did see the video, by the way, of the Giant fan, who I know this guy, by the way, who says that he paints his certain body part when they play the Eagles. All Giant fans do this. Have you seen this video?
No, enlighten me, please.
So there's a video. I don't know what it is. I don't know where it is. Is it a TV interview, a podcast interview, or what? But the guy in the video, he's wearing a Giants jersey and a hat, and he's on with somebody at Fox 29 in Philly, and he's talking about the Giant fans during Eagles week. They take Easter egg dye, and they paint the body part of that only men have. And all the Giant fans have like this secret understanding. Yeah, me and you, we're blue down there, baby. And I'm watching the video, and I said, I know this guy. I'm like, what the heck? But so the Giant fans, Eagles got a hype video. They got that video.
Yeah, Tone in the chat, blue balls.
Crazy. I mean, is anybody watching the video in the chat? Has anybody seen this guy in the video? I know the guy, by the way. He works with my girlfriend. I know the guy. I said,
that's the first I heard of it. I'm gonna have to look into it. That's definitely suspect or Alexander Freeman Fugaze. Hey, let me ask you, Mike. I want to pick your brain a little bit about some of these other games, but 7.5, 48.5. Last time I checked, I think the hook might kill you. I do think it's going to be lower scoring than people are anticipating, but it's not your typical January weather. I mean, it should be a slick track. It's going to be like crystal clear, sunny skies, pretty comfortable temperature.
The Saturday night, it's going to be cold. It's Saturday night, but it's not going to be like ridiculous. You know, that hook brings you back. Was that Blues Traveler, John Popper? The hook brings you back. Yeah, that hook's got me worried, man. I got 30-20 Philadelphia. I think they hold on, get a late field goal to kind of put it away. 30-20 has been around with the feeling that I'm getting right now. So the hook would help me. I mean, not help me. It wouldn't matter in this case because I think, you know, 2-score game, but I'm not willing to put money in that situation. I think the Giants, look, I feel like the Giants, and this might not be a great comparison based on what happened last year. I feel like the Giants are like last year's Eagles. You know, they were a bad team. The Eagles were a 4-win team, but they were only a bad team for 1 year. The Giants were a bad team for like 5-6 years. And then they came out of nowhere. They made the playoffs. They're a great story. And then the Eagles ran into Tampa last year, who at that point, they were a very experienced playoff team. The defending Super Bowl champions knocked them out. The Giants were a little bit more fortunate that they played an inexperienced playoff team too. I mean, the Vikings are just they don't have a lot of success in the playoffs. So that's a great matchup for them. But now you're facing an Eagles team, which, by the way, doesn't have a lot of playoff experience as this group, but they just have a team 14-3, number 1 seed, home field, the makings of like they've taken that next step. I think the Giants fall short in this game, and then maybe they take that step next year. Come on, they don't have an NFC championship roster right now. They're lacking at so many spots. It's a great story. They're well prepared. But you can only go so far when you're lacking. I think that this is just a little bit of a talent deficiency spot. And part of it is, too, the Eagles aren't a team that generally – they've lost games this year. But the one game they lost was to Washington. The other 2 games, I mean, Hurts isn't playing. It's hard to read. They don't lose games because of, like, letdown. They might look ugly in a game, but they have found ways to win those games. So I just don't think the Eagles have been a team that have – you know, now listen, on the flip side, Minnesota won every 1-score game they played this year, and then the one that mattered the most, they lost. So all these trends and numbers, they end at some point, or there's a reason why it's 15-6, that the time 15-9, when you play a team the third time, you win 15 times, you lose 9. It does happen. You lose 9 times, you win 15. You win more than you lose, but it does happen. So I'm not saying I'd be shocked if the Giants won. I will say this. If the Giants win the game, this would be the most monumental, disappointing loss that I can remember for the Eagles.
Wow.
Mainly based on, and I'm talking like Carolina, Tampa Bay, Arizona, based on the talent discrepancy. Arizona that year they had Larry Fitzgerald, Kurt Warner. I mean, the Eagles had beaten them on Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, like 48-10 in Arizona. So you felt playing them again, you got them. Well, they came back and beat you and went to the Super Bowl and then, did a good job in the Super Bowl. That was a great Super Bowl against Pittsburgh. Carolina, they went to the Super Bowl that year. Delhomme, they had a nice, gritty bunch. They played well in the Super Bowl. The Tampa team, obviously, they had a great defense. They Brad Johnson, that's disappointing. But to me, this Giant team it's the biggest talent discrepancy in all these games. So it would be the most disappointing loss of all of them.
Fair enough. I will say I'm shocked that if you told me back in August that Brian Daboll and the Giants were going to win a playoff game before Nick Sirianni and the Eagles, I'd be shocked. But here we are.
Well,
buckle up.
That's a byproduct of the Eagles being the number one seed. I will say this. If I told you back in August that the Eagles had to beat Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy possibly to go to the Super Bowl, what would you say?
Craziness. That's the way the season has flown. But
yeah.
We're running out of time here. I agree with you, by the way. I think the Eagles, I actually believe the Eagles will dictate the game and the final score will be closer than meets the eye. I think the Giants get a close touchdown at the end. I have it like somewhere 27-17, 27-20. Like I said, the hook might get you killed. Before we get you out of here, Mike, any upsets on the docket? Any chance Doug Peterson can upset Andy Reid? Any chance the Cowgirls can go into San Francisco? For what it's worth, I know you're with me on the Bengals. I got the Bengals still winning. I'm sticking by my guns there.
Yeah, I like the Bengals. I think they're the best team in the league. The line injuries do worry me, but I still like the Bengals. I think Jacksonville has a legitimate shot. No question. I have said virtually all season that to me, the Chiefs were the weakest of the three teams in the AFC: Cincinnati, Buffalo, Kansas City. They're the three teams that everybody's liked for about the last 10 weeks. And of those three, I like the Chiefs the least. I think Jacksonville has a legit shot to beat them. They're fast on offense, man. They got speed. They're getting Calvin Ridley next year too, by the way. They traded for him. People forget. That team's scary on offense. They can move, scoot, and I don't think the Chiefs are not a big play offense, man. I think Jacksonville's got a legit shot. I like the Bengals. I like the 49ers. Just lack of consistency. I think the worst thing for Dallas was that they looked great last week. If they would have looked like crap and snuck out with a win, I would have felt better about them. The fact that they looked as good as they did last week, I think it's just a deterrent for them. And I like the 49ers in that game. And I said Philadelphia 30-20.
Well, hey, I say this. If the Jaguars' money line comes in, we might not see Calvin Ridley in a Jaguars uniform next season. Hey, before we get you out of here, Mike, what do you got cooking over at 97.3 ESPN Radio later on today?
I'm actually at Ocean today. We're doing a special show at Ocean today from 2 to 6. Sal Pal's on. Jordan Ranan from ESPN is going to give us a little Giant perspective. Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan. Tomorrow, by the way, you can see me at Landmark Americana from 5 to 7. 5 to 7. Stop out, have a couple beers. We're watching the game, getting ready for the Eagles.
Nice.
A little 2-hour powwow for the AFC Championship game leading into the Eagles game. So I'll be there tomorrow from 5 to 7 with some prizes and Eagles stuff and some Sports Bash T-shirts and all sorts of stuff. And then Monday, I'm back at Ocean again, hopefully not doing a draft special, because if we are, I'll have you on to talk a little draft.
Well, hopefully we got it says here 26 days until the Super Bowl, which puts us 30 days away. We got to do the parade first, Mike, then we talk draft. Buckle up. Hey, always appreciate the time, my brother.
All right, everybody, we'll see you.
That's Mike Gill, 97.3 the Sports Bash, 2 to 6 p.m. He'll be down at the Ocean Casino. The Football Playbook brought to you by the Ocean Casino Resorts in Atlantic City. Get down to the Galleria, the Pondland Hockey pre- and post-game. It's all going down tomorrow night. The Ocean gets underway today with the Mike Gill Show. So we're excited about that. All right. Buckle up. We got to pay some bills. When we come back, Coach Eugene Chung keeps this ship rocking and rolling and steering on the path to victory. Make sure you smash that like button. We're going to take a quick break. We'll see you.